Well, this week on the Friday Rock Show, a big treat for us all. And this hour's special reminds me, and all of you out there going to gigs, it reminds me of the absolute importance of making sure you're there at the beginning to see all the support acts. Because back in 1996, when I was a slim man and had a bit more hair than I've got now, I went to see Bryan Adams play Wembley Stadium, not knowing what else to expect. And this apparition of an artist came on mid-afternoon. Who was the artist who I took away as remembering from that concert? Her name was Melissa Etheridge. I've been a fan ever since, and I'm delighted she's on the phone now. Melissa, a very good evening from England.
Hello to you. I remember that show.
Do you
My
remember
gosh,
it? What a show that was.
It meant so much to me. I mean, Wembley and being introduced to so many of you beautiful English people.
Well, there we go. I went out the next week and bought your little secret. So there we go. It was the start of a journey for me. And I believe you came on stage and did that It's Only Love song with Bryan, didn't you?
Oh, I sang the Tina Turner part.
Yeah.
Was that fun?
I'd like to bring her out here right now.
Look, Melissa, you are coming over to the fair county of Sussex in England, I think next month. Let's just get the gig thing out the way. Tell listeners the news about your tour.
Well, I'm heading over there, next month. Lucy Spragan is opening for me, so it's just going to be just some great rock and roll. I'm going to play all the hits. We're sort of focusing on the Yes I Am album, but you're going to hear, all the hits that Bring Me Some Water. It's just going to be a celebration of, the last 30 years in music, and we're going to rock and have a great time.
Yeah, I have to say, and I'm not just saying it I'm on the phone to you, but the first album I got of yours was Your Little Secret, which I adored. It was the soundtrack to my summer after that Wembley show. But I then started discovering the rest of your catalogue, and I have to say to this day, I think Yes I Am is my favourite.
Thank you. Yeah, that's in the States. That one was probably the favorite, the biggest one. So we're sort of celebrating 25 years of that and playing those songs and rocking out and having a good time.
Does it? I mean, we'll rewind to your career in a few minutes. But when you look back on an album being 25 years old, do you still remember what that album felt like when it came out, and as an artist, how it felt to hold that bit of vinyl in your hand and thinking, this is what I've created?
Oh, absolutely. Like it was yesterday. It's the crazy thing. I remember first sharing it with all my friends and having them listen, and that album especially was a very special moment, and it felt special. It felt like I was entering into a new area that I hadn't been, and indeed I was. And I look back, and of course we look back in our past and we wish we were, paid more attention as we went along or had more gratitude. But, I'm looking back and really, really feeling grateful for it all.
Why did you steal the matches from the one-room motel?
You're playing Bex Hill, which is down the road from us, so we're going to put all the details up online after the show tonight, because it's a short drive. So I'm hoping a lot of our rock show listeners, if there's tickets left, snap them up. But I guess the other cities, you're playing London and the usual cities, yeah?
Yes, London, Manchester, Birmingham, and even going up to Scotland, going up to Glasgow.
That's good. They're a good crowd up there. We actually have quite a few Scottish listeners, would you believe, down in Sussex. So Peter Carroll, Dave Ritchie, any of you listening tonight, get yourself a ticket. Marvellous. Marvellous. So let's break for a song. Pick us a song from Yes I Am, maybe a deep cut that you think deserves a run out on radio. We'll give it a play. We'll take a break. We'll come back and we'll continue the conversation.
Oh, well, let's play Ruins. This song I always get a special reaction to. It's a very deep song. It's a song about self-discovery and sort of going and getting those skeletons out of your closet and dusting them off and letting them go.
That was Ruins. What a delicious song that was from the, I think I can call it iconic album from Melissa Etheridge. Yes, I am. We're with Melissa in conversation for the next hour, celebrating her forthcoming gig, the celebration of 25 years of Yes, I Am. She's playing Bexhill down the road next month. Details online. Back in conversation. Melissa, something would be great to get a view from you on. What we try and do on this show, because we're not like a mainstream London station, is we tend to play a lot of new guitar bands, and something we've noticed in this country, there's a bit of a revival after these years of reality TV and young kids wanting to be famous. We're seeing a revival on people wanting to write music again and involve guitars. How do you see the scene in the travels that you've made around the world on the interest in real music making from young people?
I have said this for years. When we were going through the auto-tune phase, and you know, and everyone being able to sort of create on their computer, you know, huge pieces of music, I've always said people are going to be drawn toward the real, the authentic, something that moves them, that's simple and like a song, like writing, like melody, you know, really concentrating on that. And I've always held to that, and all my work has always come from a very personal place. And for the last 10 years, I've actually been concentrating more on my guitar playing, and I'm a much better lead guitar player. It's a big part of my show now. It will surprise people when they see me, and I believe firmly in guitar-based singer-songwriter music. I don't think it will ever go away. I think it always has a place in our hearts.
Yeah, it's funny, you know, I was talking on there the other week. One of the nicest things that actually, as a parent, that happened to me was my daughter, who's 13, said to me just before Christmas. She said, "Hey, Dad, can you and I buy ourselves a vinyl player for Christmas?" And I thought that sounds, you know, just as your kid's becoming an adolescent and doesn't need their mum and dad much more, you've got to focus on being friends more. So I got a record player, and I've introduced her to vinyl. And you know, Melissa, in the space of about 3 weeks, she went from being this kid that thought that like tunes were just things on Spotify you didn't buy and had no value. I remember going home one day from work, and she was curled up on the sofa with the vinyl of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road and the sleeve and the lyrics in front of her, and she suddenly got Why You Listen to an Album in Full. And it kind of reminded me that what you and I probably grew up of going down to the record store is as alive and real to young people if they experience it today.
That just gives me so much hope. My youngest children are 12, and I'm ready. I'm ready for that. I'm ready for them to discover that. I think
get the family vinyl record player. I tell you, it's done wonders.
Next holidays, I'm there.
That's good, and something else, and I know you've been, I mean, I don't know you well, but from what I've read, you know, you've been a real champion of, you know, a more diverse society, a more inclusive society, all the right values we all need to live more closely by in this funny world we live in today. But something that we've it's funny, we do an end of year poll on the Rock Show for Band of the Year. We had 172 bands. Any band that does an interview is in the poll. So you're being it this year. What was really cool, really good for me, was 5 of the top 10 acts in our top 10 most valued bands of the year last December were female bands. And I'm not trying to play the gender card here, but the female acts are so underrepresented still in what for me is a very male rock and roll. It seemed to me really good that we seem to be getting a bit more gender equality in the rock and roll scene. Is that a fair comment? What would your take on that be?
Yeah, once again, I think it's, you know, been a long time coming. I mean, I remember when my first album came out. I remember radio stations telling me, "Oh, we're already playing a woman." So, like, there was one spot.
Woman. Yeah, okay.
A woman, yes. This was, you know, the end of the 80s, early 90s. And so it's just a lot of perseverance, a lot of, you know, people making music and then inspiring young women to make music. And there will always be musicians. There will always be people that choose to express, in the artistic musical way, and women are just a part of that. And I think as we see our whole society as a whole becoming more comfortable with just pulling out of gender roles, and we get more comfortable with all the different types of gender, that that we are just more comfortable with the music, that it's all about the music. It doesn't matter if it's a woman or a man. I'm seeing in the last 10 years, I've seen more men come to my shows. I mean, it was always the majority of women, and the men are finally, they're not afraid to come see me anymore.
But you write about, I mean, thinking about, when I first listened to your albums, I was, it's 20 odd years ago, God. But the thing about your songs, I'd also say the same to some of the early Tina Turner stuff. I mean, I just love music, but I can get things from great female singer-songwriters on seeing the world through their eyes, which you don't get from some bloke writing about cowboys and driving a Ford Mustang down the Nevada desert. I mean, you bring... It makes the whole scene richer, doesn't it? If we can appreciate lots of different styles and lots of different views on life.
Absolutely. I think that goes in every aspect of life, I think. Especially art, it's just good for us.
Okay. Hey, let's bring some of your music. Let's let your music do the talking. We're going to now have a double play. Now, this is going to be funny. I want you to pick 2 songs from 2 different albums. Again, we're going to do the singles towards the end of the show anyway. So, again, give us a couple of deep cuts that we can play and just talk about them. We'll put them out back to back now.
So, let's go to the second album. There's a song called You Can Sleep While I Drive, probably one of so many people's favorites. It's just that type of song that if I had to pick one of my favorite, songs, I would pick that one and say, okay, this is one that every audience of the world over can relate to, and I enjoy singing it.
It's a beautiful song. Okay, and one other.
I Drive. And then Let's Rock.
Okay.
Let's do from the Your Little Secret album. Let's do the song Your Little Secret. It was the middle of the grunge era. I was rocking hard. I wanted to put a little twist on, love, relationship, affair. Yeah, let's do Your Little Secret.
It's got a great scream at the end. I remember that song. It's a great. Let's put them out now. Coming up, double play. This is Melissa Etheridge. Marvelous.
Baby, you can sleep while I drive.
2 super songs there. I'm in conversation with Melissa Etheridge. She's coming to play Sussex next month. It's a celebration. It's an anniversary of Yes I Am. I'm not going to say what anniversary it is because it would make both myself and Melissa feel a little bit older than we want to feel on the show tonight. But it's a beautiful album, a timeless album. Melissa, let's forward wind a bit. I mean, we'd need about a fortnight to talk about your career because you've been such a prolific artist. But something that we were quite late picking up, but we got into in about 2017. We kind of missed it when it first came out. But it's a beautiful album. Talk to us about your Memphis album, because I think that gives a slightly different lens into your musicianship.
Oh, thank you so much. I, have been straightforward, the singer-songwriter. I have, some of my albums have had hit songs. Others have been more for the deep fans. And about right around 2015, I wanted to dive into my influences. I'd been working on my guitar playing, and I just wanted to show the world how deeply soul music, R&B, the black music of the American South, how much that had an influence on the rock and roll that you hear today and that you've heard for the last few decades. And so I went to the core of it, which I felt was Memphis, was Stax Records, which has an incredible history. There's documentaries made about Stax, it'll blow your mind. how it was racially mixed. You would walk behind the doors, and there were white musicians and black artists, and it was run by white and black people, and it was just this amazing situation in the Deep South, in the center of the civil rights movement. Martin Luther King was assassinated just blocks away from it. It was just this hot center of music and culture, and the artists that came out of there, Otis Redding, the Staple Singers. And so I reached back and did my version of these songs. Sam and Dave's, Hold On, I'm Coming. It's a classic, but I just thought that song rocks. I thought it had a rock and roll heart, and I wanted to do that. So I put these songs, and I think it's some of my best performances. I went down to Memphis. I recorded it there with some of Al Green's musicians. It was just an incredible experience, and the fans really, really loved the album.
Yeah, it's funny. As I said, I kind of missed it. We were late getting into it. It sometimes happens. But again, as I always say to listeners, it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter if there's someone in their 30s to today who's listening to Abbey Road for the first time. As long as you discover it, that's the thing that matters, isn't it?
Yeah. There's no time limit.
Yeah. Okay, let's. We're going to play a song from that, but before we do, I'm going to ask you what might seem a really silly question, but what we try and do in this show, I mean, we have a lot of people that tune in every week who are fascinated by music, but like me, are tone deaf and have no idea how music and that magic is made. It's like alchemy when we hear it on the record. You've been doing this. Let's just say you've been doing this a few years now. You and I are going to both be private about the fact we're both still 25 tonight. Marvellous. You've done so many albums, and the thing that's nice about you, it's always authentic. You often come back with a surprise, but you always come back. You always come back and deliver, Melissa. What is it that keeps the spark going for you, that makes you want to wake up and still push yourself to do the next album? I mean, what is it? Where does it come from, that inspiration?
Oh, it has always been there. It was always in my life. It was always the way I wanted to express myself. There is nothing like getting on stage and sharing my music and experiencing it with someone and exchanging that energy. That's just the ultimate, and the experience of taking my own inner emotions, my thoughts, my opinions, my hopes and desires and pains, and putting them into song, putting them into lyric and melody, and then going in and watching them grow in the studio, and then giving them to the world, and then playing the songs. I'm so blessed. I wake up and I'm so grateful I get to do that.
Yeah, and I guess you do something you love, so it's a good thing. Look, we're going to take another music break. I haven't forgotten the Memphis album, so give us a pick from the Memphis album to play. Again, feel free to pull out a deep cut, and we can take a break and we can come back and conclude the interview.
All right. One of my absolute favorite songs in the whole wide world, hands down, is Otis Redding's I've Been Loving You Too Long.
Yeah, okay.
And it is the epitome of a broken, and it comes from a naughty place. They've been having an affair, and it's just hopeless, and it's just as that. It's just and the opportunity to sing the song, and then to have Lester Brown come in and do the strings and just play with the original, Memphis musicians. It's just one of my favorite recordings I've ever made.
Okay, coming up now.
I've been loving you.
Okay, we're back with Melissa. This is delightful. It's sort of like US Sussex. We're linked up by telephone. It's absolutely marvellous tonight. We're going to talk about the future in a minute. But before that, Melissa, something I'd just like to get a view from you on. Now, as a man, I always want to make sure I speak about this in the right way, because I have a habit of putting my foot in things as some clumsy dad. But I am conscious, having followed the news, that you had a difficult chapter in an illness you beat, and you're back bigger and stronger. I think it was cancer, but tell us about how music was a strength for you to get through that, and also for any women we have listening, and we have many great members of our group listening tonight who are mums and sisters and daughters. Any bits of advice you might give to women about tackling the kind of issue you went through?
Absolutely. I went through breast cancer in 2004. I was diagnosed. I am now, this year, I will be 15 years cancer-free. It absolutely changed my life. I now have a much deeper understanding of life, of the meaning of life, of joy, of what the important things in life is. It gave me a very clear purpose that, every day my joy is what is most important, and that my health is my responsibility. I can't just abuse my body, put, processed foods and sugars and stress. Stress is a big killer. I can't put all that together and think that some doctor's someday going to fix me. Yeah. I have a responsibility, and the more I care for myself, the more joy I feel. So I would urge everyone to just take a look at their health, take a look at their happiness and their stress, and follow that path. Follow the path to more happiness, less stress.
Yeah. Wise words. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. When you came out and you'd beaten it and you were back, did it change the way you wrote music? Did you feel you wanted to do other things with music? Did you feel you wanted to celebrate life more with your music?
Oh, absolutely. I instantly the thought of, I have to have a hit song, or I have to be on some chart, or I have to sell a certain amount, that went out. That was like, I have no business thinking that. What my purpose of every album now is to reach inside myself, to create from myself, to find joy in that creation, and then, share it, and then, just keep moving that energy. That's just, and since then, every single album, every note you've ever heard after 2005 has been that.
Okay. Give us a song we can play from your archive, which, I think quite apt, that celebrates being alive. Which song would you pick from your wonderful archive?
Well, it's on my greatest hits album, which was released after I went through breast cancer, and there's a song called "I Run for Life" on it, and that is all right.
Perfect choice.
It's been years since they told I run for life.
Right, we're back with Melissa. It's the end. It's the final segment. I could happily sit and chat here for hours. It's like a fireside chat with Melissa. It's marvellous. We're enjoying her music. For those of you who are tuning in, who have been fans, this is hopefully a treat. For many of you not familiar with Melissa, I hope you start the journey tonight. We'll put links to her albums up online after the show. Melissa, something I just want to ask you about now, and I'll caveat this by saying I don't bring politics into my rock show. My rock show is about Friday night, everyone being happy, listening and singing while they're cooking with their families and enjoying being alive. But one thing I have noticed, and I've spoken to a few musicians about probably in the last 12 months, is I think you've had it with, the Trump era and all the issues with Mexico and stuff. We've had it with Brexit. What's happened, I've sensed over here, is whether people are for or against it. People have just suddenly kind of got more divided, and the thing that worries me is it's becoming unacceptable to say unacceptable things about minority groups or whatever, and it's not very democratic or tolerant. That's about as far as I'm going to go on it without upsetting any listeners. But it seems something I've noticed in the last year is increasingly I'm seeing, whether it's young bands or old bands, in a funny kind of almost Bob Dylan kind of way, is I'm seeing the signs that music is kind of beginning to testify again in some of the songs and some of the lyrics I'm hearing too. To what extent do you think, let's just say in these rather troubled times we're all living through, that good songwriting and music making has a more important role to play in giving people hope?
I do believe that. I do believe we are the mirrors of society. I do believe we hold the heart and the deep soul of society, and I believe that these are the years and the days and the months of understanding that we're all in this together. And this is our challenge, is to find out how to live with each other, how to have unity through our diversity. And it all starts in our own hearts, with our own selves, and loving our own selves, and understanding who we are, and then it goes out from there. So I actually have a new album coming out in April.
Hey, tell us about it. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's called The Medicine Show, and it's it's personal, and it's also you can't help but be influenced by the events of the last couple of years. Yeah. And it's uplifting, and I'm never one to preach, but it's I hope that it does bring some comfort and some strength to all of us.
And I think that's the tonic that rock and roll. I mean, I always say on my show, because I don't let politics come into it, but I always think that music can remind us as people what we have in common rather than what separates us. There you go. There we go. Hey, and on that note, I'm thinking the song we might play out with. Guess, right, one of them I'm going to play out with in a minute to finish the hour. Do you want to have a guess what your most played song is on our show over the last 2 years? Do you just want to hazard a guess? You'll get it wrong, but do you want to have a guess what you think it might be?
Wow, my most played song. I'm the only one.
No. I think we might get a prize for being the most obscure. The second most played song, which is the song I really like, is Shriners Park.
Oh my God!
It's a beautiful song. I mean, you talked about the Sleep While You Drive. That's from the same place. It's a beautiful song. No, the song and the most played song we played from you. It's been on about 8 or 9 shows in the last 6 months. We played is actually the final song from Your Little Secret. This War Is Over, which I digest as a song of hope.
Oh, yes, it is. Oh, you just gave me goosebumps.
Good.
That's, I love that music just lives on, and, you've just made me very happy. Thank you.
Good. Well, look, Melissa, on behalf of everyone on the Rock Show here, thank you for your time. We're all coming down to Bexhill, so we'll all be singing along, and we wish you every success for the landing of the brand new album.
Well, I'm so excited. Thank you very much, my friend. Thank you.
Take off my shield, carry my sword.
Well, that's your lot, folks. That's an hour of Melissa Etheridge in words and music. As I said at the start of the session, my first very experience, I remember clearly, of Melissa on stage was when she filled the stage at Wembley Stadium before Bryan Adams came on stage back in 1996. Wow, makes me feel old. A day when I was a lot slimmer than I am now, had a full head of hair. Marvellous. And it was my first experience of Melissa on stage. And I remember I was struck by what a great singer, what great storytelling, what great musicality from the band. And it really underlined to me as a 15, 20, whatever year old I was, how important it is when you go to gigs to see the full bill, because you discover some gems and some favourites. I've followed Melissa and her story ever since, through highs and lows and different challenges, but I feel she's kind of at a creative high now. I mean, after the cancer illness she talked about, and now 15 years cancer-free, I certainly noticed from her more recent albums, as Melissa said herself during the interview, her music is a celebration of life. There's so much joy in her music. It's uplifting, it's enabling, and I think in some of these dark, troubled times of fake news and spin and all these weird political things going on, music has a really reassuring, uplifting role to play, and there's no better place to start if you want a dose of that than checking out some of Melissa's catalogue. Melissa's going to be touring the UK through February, as she mentioned. February the 18th, she's playing Manchester Cathedral. On the 19th, she's playing the Royal Concert Hall in Glasgow. On the 21st, she's down to Town Hall in Birmingham, Indigo 2 at the O2 in London on the 22nd, and finishing on the Saturday the 23rd at the Delaware Pavilion in Bexhill. Absolutely #marvellous. She's also got a brand new album coming up in the weeks ahead. In fact, April the 12th, The Medicine Show will be available on all good musical outlets, and maybe some less good ones too. Marvellous will be available everywhere. Super duper stuff. I'm going to finish off and say goodbye now, and I'm going to leave the studio before the men in white coats come and throw me out the building, and reassure you with lots of nice soft ding dong pop and chart music. How absolutely marvellous, with one of Melissa's more uplifting songs. I've picked some of the songs from Yes I Am in the last hour, and for me some of the more spirited songs, some of the deeper songs, but we're going to pick something from the album Lucky to take us into the weekend on a high note. I'll be with you again next Friday 5 till 8. Till then, stay safe, God bless, have a great weekend. Good night.